Oh, man. Who knows?
I need a bag. I need a bag.
I know. Bruce hyperventilating here. I think
I got
we're
a
live.
smoke mask.
Nobody knows for sure. I'm watching the screen to make sure we're actually going. It says we're going. There we go. There we go. We got the first thing that everybody sees on today's show is you, I think, like holding something over your face. Brew and I are having a good time, as per usual, as we lead into our show. We're not recorded for the traditional podcast audience yet. We are exclusively for YouTubers for the next 3 or 4 minutes, and so without getting into any of the basketball stuff, I will let everybody know I can see Aaron Bruski. He cannot see me. The way that this is set up, for whatever reason, my webcam can only get sent out to you. It can't get sent to him and to you. So he doesn't know what I'm doing over here. So I could be doing almost anything, but I know what he's doing. And
can't do what I'm doing right now,
they're
buddy.
going to censor us. Be careful over there.
You know what? I didn't extend.
That's true. It just looked like you were...
I was about to reel in a middle finger. And
yeah, I could see what it was going to be, but without the actual finger coming up, it just looked like you were doing some sort of weird fighting Irish thing.
Yeah, I'm going to punch you, Dan. I'm going to punch you.
You look like that little logo, the Notre Dame logo. What's up, Brew? Yeah. We text all week. Everybody knows this. We text like multiple times every day, but we don't see or actually hear one another until these Friday shows. There's this moment where it's like, oh, right, that's that sweet voice again. What's up, Brew? How's the week?
I'd like to complain about our text ratio. I feel like I'm texting you like 60 to 65% of the time. You're texting me 35.
All right, I'll step my game up. I'll do a little more texting. Yeah.
You need to do more of the one-handed baby holding text. I know that's
faster. You're faster
at
it
your
than
style.
I am. Do you here? So everybody can see very quickly. Hold your thumb up to the camera, and then I'm going to show my thumb up to the camera. And you can see why Brew is able to text faster than me. I have what's known as toe thumb. It's a terrifying affliction that's going to scare off viewers and listeners.
Did the doctors like talk to your parents and like take them aside? Sorry, sir, ma'am, your son has toe thumb.
They should have. They should have warned me that it was going to be very difficult to pick up thin things off of tables. That's basically what it, and to use, but they didn't know in the 1980s, they didn't know that phones were going to be touch screens someday. So when it was like a little flip phone with a keyboard, I was rocking, man. And regular Nintendo and Super Nintendo, I'm crushing it because I'm knocking out like all 4 buttons at the same time with this bad boy. And then it turned to touch screen and it's just hammering away at it. I'm just banging on my phone and whatever words come out, that's just what you're going to get. So here we are.
Excuses, Dan.
Yeah. You are fast. Are you texting? No, you're taking a drink. I thought you were going to show off how fast you were texting live on air. You're going to like text me faster than I could speak back to you.
I don't even use my hands, Dan. I text with my brain.
Someday. You think that's going to be a thing before we're dead?
There was a point in time, probably 4 years, 5 years ago, I would have done it. Like you would have just said, hey, put a thing in my brain and I will, if you want to just test on me, I'll be the guy. Like, because the idea that I could get Twitter in, and this is totally terrible. Like, why would anybody do this?
No, don't do Twitter.
I wanted to get the Twitter feed in my brain so I didn't have to actually read it. And that would save me some time. It was a thought that I had actually had.
No.
Now that's just, that'd be dumb. That would be terrible, actually.
I am staunchly against putting Twitter in your brain. If it was just the ability to control your phone's text messaging, I think that's a maybe.
No, I don't want anything to do with that. I'd keep everything out of my brain.
Let's say it was entirely safe, and no one was going to eventually use this to control your thoughts or to like figure out what items you're thinking about and send you advertising.
I don't think they could control your thoughts. Well, maybe they could, but I don't think they could control your thoughts. I just, the idea that it would be just in there radiating. Now,
okay,
it's a bad idea.
And
also,
safe.
They're going to look at our brains in general. Just, they'll say, okay, what professions had to read Twitter 24/7? It's going to be like news people and sports writers. And they're just going to be like, what? Let's look at their brains. And they're going to be like, oh, crap, that was not good. Because it's not good. And that's what we do here at Hoop Ball for everybody that reads us and follows us. You don't have to do that. We do it for you.
We'll do that for you. Brew and I are subjecting ourselves to a tremendous amount of radiation to get you the best possible fantasy information. Brew, you ready to do a show for realsies?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I'm going to turn our mics off for 5 seconds. Nobody worry, everything is working. I just need a brief moment here where I can clip it for the traditional podcast audience. So sit tight.
You better clip it. Sorry.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to Fantasy NBA Today, live on YouTube. I am Dan Besbris. He is Aaron Bruski. You can't see us if you're listening in the traditional podcast channels. You can if you're watching us live on YouTube right now. And so I say to you, Aaron, for the second time officially, good day to you.
Good day, sir. Did you know that Elvis and Babe Ruth and Anton Scalia are among the Medal of Freedom honorees?
That is an interesting grouping. This is a weird grouping. But you know what? Screw it. Why the hell not? Babe Ruth, throw him in there. Fantasy stuff. Aaron, how's the week going? I haven't called you Aaron in forever.
I didn't like that curveball to start the show.
That was I mean, it is a weird thing.
Oh, it's weird looking at it. It's in the background of the TV. It's just weird. Like Elvis and Babe Ruth and Scalia like walk into a bar and I don't know. You can't what they don't even make sense together as a trio.
I've heard that.
So
joke.
it's weird,
and
I get it. I get distracted. You know, that dog has a puffy tail. No, but it's good, man. I'm really happy that we've made it through to the Thanksgiving break with really flying colors as far as my expectation for everything that we got going on here at Hoop Ball. Traffic is great. Sales are great. I think team spirit is good. We're not fighting like Dre and KD. You know,
that stuff is so stupid,
isn't it?
It's so stupid.
But it's gonna change the power of the
he was
balance
leaving,
of power in the NBA.
He was leaving anyway. It doesn't matter. I mean, he wants $36 million. The Warriors can't give him that. Or if they do, then they can't give Clay that.
No. Well, I don't think they keep Dre. Is the play, if I might say.
That was well done. That was very Happy Gilmore-y of you.
Well, yeah, your quote about that they knew it the whole time reminded me of Beer Fest and Barry Bannerath or whatever his name is when he's getting with Monique.
The only line that we ever use from that movie is, "You go, I'm never leaving this place."
What? I don't even remember that line.
That's
and
right.
I'm such a fan of the movie. I just read like an oral history of the movie Beer Fest.
Those guys are good. What Broken Lizard? Those guys are hilarious.
They're really good.
They do is touch it.
Sorry, I get off.
Touches to go.
Get off track. You know, when I talk with you, Dan, we got to catch up on all the stupid stuff. And
it's true. A lot of puffy-tailed dogs. We got to go over that. All them dogs here at the beginning of the show. Here's what we're doing today, everybody. I want to give you guys the rundown. We have the usual fare. That's the rundown. We're going to talk about the key stories of the week at hand. It's been a pretty interesting week again. We got some promo stuff to go over. We got questions from the chat room. And so I want to jump straight into some of the topics of the week. And then we're going to hammer you with promos when you least expect it. Because right now is when you expect it. You know, tune us out. I'm going to get you when you're not ready for it. So, Brew, topics of the week in no particular order. But I do think that Jimmy Butler stuff has to be at the top of the list. It has to. So the rest of them are in no particular order. Jimmy Butler's 76ers, he was the good citizen in Game 1. He didn't really try to dominate anything. He just let Joel Embiid take 1,000 shots, and they lost. This is all part of Jimmy's grand plan, isn't it? And then beyond that, can anybody past J.J. Redick actually have fantasy value on that team?
No question mark. I mean, I think there will be one that we can't predict that comes in and has some fantasy value. It's not going to be Markelle Fultz. Maybe Wilson Chandler. It could be like Mike Muscala, just some stat set hero that, gets in there and doesn't suck. But no, there's a lot of usage that's been sucked up into that group. I think JJ Redick's going to play a ton of minutes. So, he's jumped up a bunch, I think, as much as he can jump up. But yeah, that's a team that's got 4 fantasy guys, and that's about it. And maybe TJ McConnell, because he's been able to in the past do 22 to 24 minutes and get you good top 150 value, especially in 9-cat leagues. So I mean, but it's a fascinating experiment. I really wonder what's going to happen to Ben Simmons' value. He was the guy who took a hit in the first game, and he's probably the weakest mentally of the 3. I mean, he's dating a Kardashian or who knows, but that's been the book on him coming out of college is great talent. Obviously, I mean, a lot of people think he's a future Hall of Famer already, but, couldn't bring his college team to the NCAA tournament. And in this trio, how is he going to be when Jimmy says, you know what, I don't like the way you're wasting all these possessions, Ben, because Ben wastes a lot of possessions. I'm going to take the ball now. And you got Joel Embiid, who's not going to back down at all. And he already, you wonder, did Joel Embiid say, hey, I'm going to just grab this team, make sure it's mine, at the very beginning, very first thing, I'm going to set the tempo, which really is the way that they should go in Philly. Is he the odd man out? And if he is, man, you're talking about some people were taking Ben Simmons late in the first round, which was crazy, but early second. And with his stat set, if he's not getting volume across the board, I mean, he could drop like a rock. And I don't know if that's top 50. That's kind of where I'm wondering if he hits is top 40, top 50 in 8-cat leagues.
Yeah.
I wouldn't count the 9-cat leagues. So that's a really bad loss for those folks that took him in the first round or second round.
I mean, there had to be an expectation that he was going to fix his free throw shooting for him to go as early as he was going. It was borderline outrageous. And then on the other side of this trade, I have this, by the way, on my list of things to talk about. I have them listed as Derrick Rose's Timberwolves. Is he joking?
Sure.
The first game went basically as we had predicted, which is there were, and I'm trying to do this in sort of the gentlest way possible. There were some spots that were advising an instantaneous Taj Gibson drop, and I thought, I feel like we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. Taj is a Tibbs guy, and if you're a Tibbs guy, you play. And the balance of power could shift there as time goes. But in game one with the new guys, Rob Covington played 41 minutes and Dario Saric played 20 to Taj Gibson's 28. How does this go moving forward? And then in terms of sort of the other guys, the guys that were already in Minnesota, is there anyone that needs to be at all concerned? Does Wiggins need to be concerned at all? Rose, Teague? But certainly the big question mark so far is the power forward spot.
Yeah, well, I mean, the good news is we have plenty of Tibbs experience to draw on to we can almost say with certainty what he's going to do here. I think we did a good job of saying that Taj wasn't going to be kicked out. The conventional basketball wisdom says you play Dario Saric a lot. And what Tibbs said after the game was that maybe Taj has to play some 5. And so in Tibbs's kind of, he's got his rules, he's got his procedures, he's got, the way he does things. For him to get more minutes for Saric, he's going to have to bench Gorgie Dieng. So I think you might see a 3-man front court rotation or a very minimalistic Gorgie Dieng role, like we're talking 9 minutes per game or something like that. So that might bump up, if you figure Cat's going to play like 33, 34 minutes, if Gorgie's getting an 8 or 9, you're looking at something like 41, 42, 43 minutes that are in the center bucket and left, you're getting 8 minutes left over for the power forward bucket. And of course, Tibbs will want to give Taj some of those extra minutes so he can get back up over 30. And that puts Saric, in a position where he could be looking at like 23, 25 minutes per game. Now, Saric is going to win over Tibbs over time because he's got a little grit to his game. And he is probably, I don't know where you would put him in the ranks of Wolves players, but the value of Karl Anthony Towns outside of fantasy leagues is very much up for debate. Andrew Wiggins is very much up for debate. Jeff Teague is very much up for debate. It's hard for me to think that Dario Saric can't come on board and leapfrog at least half those guys and be one of those better players on the team. So I think he's got future here. He's going to hit the wire in a lot of leagues. I think you pick him up. It could be about 2 to 3 weeks before we see anything good here, but keep in mind, Tibbs is on his last legs with this organization. They just traded a guy. Teams, when they trade like this, they want those new guys on the floor. Now, Covington's an easy call because he plays defense. And, Tibbs is going to be all about that. Also, he steps into a vacuum left by Jimmy Butler. I think this is a slow roasting value situation with Šarić. But he also, I think, will be very good for this team. And I think what we've seen with Šarić is two tales. One is a guy that doesn't produce. We saw that in his first season. And then last season, we saw the version of Šarić that's really engaged and can be extremely productive on any given night. So he's got mid-round upside, and you got to treat him like that.
Does Derrick Rose last through this situation? I feel like the answer is yes, because he's another Tibbs guy.
It's almost like the conversation stops at that point. He's a Tibbs guy. If he's
Fair
healthy
enough.
in an 8-cat league, go to town. If it's a 9-cat league, I think you can maybe step aside and not deal with it. But, if you've got a hole at guard, you gotta give him the valuation he deserves.
Next thing on the docket, we're going down the list. Caris LeVert. That's a bad one. Not as bad as initially expected because apparently he's made out of elastic, but still not good. Multiple months absence. We've now had one post-LeVert game, and it was also with Jared Allen out. It was a secondary little...
How important is that guy to that team?
a little bit, it seems. So that was a rough one for them. And the thing that I brought up on a different show was, boy, I think a lot of us were hoping that Rondae Hollis-Jefferson would step in and do more than 23 or 24 minutes or whatever it was. But that last game looked like the Brooklyn Nets of 2 years ago where everybody played 26 minutes. What happens, Brew?
It didn't help that he hurt his ankle in that game.
Also true. He is questionable for the next one. Is he the guy? I still feel like he could be the guy to fill a lot of that vacuum.
What happened when Caris LeVert took a step forward, organizationally and with the leash. Caris LeVert, first of all, great guy. When you hear people around the league talk about a guy like this, he's the real deal as far as off the court. But the ferocity that he was taking the ball to the rim with, that was as green of a light as I've seen a player get. And I bet that Kenny Atkinson wanted to pull back on that quite a bit. And there's been stories actually of him coming after the game to LeVert and saying, here's the film. This is where you missed this pass. So they've been very, because he's a good guy and because he's been producing, I think they've been open with him doing too much, but that's come at the result of, or the expense of Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. And I would guess that there would be some sort of an evening out of that because you don't want Rondae Hollis-Jefferson to just stop developing if you're the Nets, especially when you're so thin in the front court. We saw what happens when Peyton or probably Jared Allen, takes a game off. You're getting Ed Davis and really Rondae Hollis-Jefferson as your center in your front court. Kenneth Faried was terrible out there. So you can't really turn your back on RHJ, but that's the direction that was heading when they were at full strength. Now with LeVert out, I think this reverts very much to last year's team where you see D'Angelo Russell chucking, not being good, 6 of 18 in that last game. But then you're going to get normal Spencer Dinwiddie and then normal Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. So as long as he can stay healthy, that's been the question mark with him throughout, the last year. How many, as an undersized power forward, how many shots can he take? How much traffic can he, withstand down there? Because a lot of jumping up and down and rolling ankles. But for the next 12 or 8 weeks or whatever amount of time LeVert's out, I think he's going to be a top 100, top 80 guy. So, he's got to be owned.
We'll go to another injury, although this one, from a fallout perspective, seems a little bit less complicated, and that's Rajon Rondo's broken hand. This is mostly just a really good thing for Lonzo Ball with a smattering of other stuff, but really, it's Lonzo, right?
Yeah, it's Lonzo, and it's a big question of whether or not Lonzo can keep his, or not keep, but expand his role on the team and get Rajon Rondo out of a position where he's pushing him for minutes on a nightly basis. If they want to give Rondo 20 minutes per game and make sure that Lonzo gets his 30 and find somebody else to take from, then that would be a win in this scenario for Lonzo Ball. So over this 4 to 5 weeks, what he has to do is really become in sync with LeBron James. And bring it on the defensive end. He's looked a little slow on that side. That could be the injuries. But, this is his big opportunity. And what it does as well is it is going to open the door for Josh Hart to be more consistent. Now, he's about a top 75 value right now. He shouldn't be hanging around on any waiver wires, probably with some regressions that are about to hit. But he's going to be more consistent. And I kind of wonder what they're going to do with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope because, Philly's out there. They need depth. He could be on the trade block. And, when we were doing our contest, I picked up KCP. It kind of worked out for me. But I thought this is a good time for them to showcase. And he was $3,000 on DraftKings. So, I couldn't really lose there. But he could possibly – he's a better player than the stats have shown. I don't even recognize him on the floor. I mean, he's so – weirded out in this system of LeBron James and all these other players. He just doesn't look like last year's version. But he's a guy in a deeper league I think you might take a look at over the next 3 to 4 weeks.
I was going to stop and talk about DraftKings, but we'll do that after we get through some of these topics of the week. I would love to promote how terrible I was. It was really epic how bad I was. But luckily I beat Neil. I was ahead of Neil. That's like the one.
Neil.
I think Neil was dead last. Or he was second to last and I was third to last or something. We were way down there at the bottom. Season long is pretty different than DFS, guys. Just letting you know. I'm learning on the fly here. Next thing on the docket. Every time we do a show, we can talk about a brand new New York Knicks lineup. And they rotated in a few new bodies in this one. Kevin Knox and Emmanuel Mudiay, now members of the Knicks starting five. My take so far, Brew, on shows earlier this week was that Mudiay sucks, and we've been down this road before, and that Kevin Knox is a chucker. He's taking a boatload of shots and doing very little else on the basketball court. But the question that I have for you, because you're a numbers guy when it comes right down to it, and you've seen these things happen for many, many years, is there's a bell curve that sort of forms for guys like this, where eventually they're on the floor long enough where even a bad stat set can kind of move to the right side of the curve. Is there any number of minutes or shots that Knox could take that would make up for the fact that he has some gaps in his fantasy game, or is it just not going to happen this first year?
Man, I think you're rooting for him to take less shots.
Yeah, the efficiency is rough. But then there's nothing.
Well, I mean, the hope is that he stops taking shots and tries to focus on other areas of the game, learning how to impact the game in other areas. That's really his only hope. And this was my concern and why I didn't have any, I didn't pick Knox anywhere. Looking at his stat set coming out of college, it's really bad. He's not a defensive stat guy, and the efficiency is going to be a question mark. And, really, is he breaking down people enough to be able to get assists? And the answer is no. So it's another lesson in don't worry about summer league so much. But I would say if he's going to get the 29 minutes he got in the last game, that's at least the starting point for a discussion on this stuff. He's kind of like Trae Young. Trae Young's obviously got the ball in his hands a lot more. He's got a lot more organizational support, and he's definitely a better player, I think, at this point in time in terms of polish. But you just how many 2-for-9s are you going to be able to sustain in a fantasy league with 5 turnovers? And in Knox's case, he's not getting you anything. He's turning the ball over at a decent clip. But that 5 of 16 probably crushed your field goal percentage this week, whether you're head-to-head or, roto.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm sitting with that guy. All right, moving along. The Nuggets. We are finally starting to get a tiny bit of clarity in who might take Will Barton's minutes. It took a while for Michael Malone to figure out where he wanted to go with this, and then we had the whole Jamal Murray off the bench thing. But if we put that aside for a moment, we've seen some good games out of Monte Morris. We've seen a lot of minutes over the last couple of games from Juancho Hernan-Gomez. Do either of those guys interest you as a 3 or 4 week fix with Barton on the shelf, or is it better to say, there's not enough consistency there. I'd rather find my value, go hunting for somebody, maybe a more season-long type guy?
Monte Morris is intriguing because he's got late-round value in 22 minutes per game. And so you kind of can't go wrong with that. Malone wants to use him. He's sort of the foil to, when Jamal Murray gets lackadaisical and doesn't rotate, and Malone pointed that out. This benching of Murray wasn't very it didn't go under the radar. It was like, here's the play that he sucked at, and now he's coming off the bench for a small violation of team rules. So, Malone is going to make these guys earn it. Murray also showed up in our blurbs as a buy low, and this benching couldn't have come at a better time. He was productive and he responded like you would expect a young player to respond. So it's not like the stat line was, terrible that would aid further in a buy low deal, but he's not anywhere near his ADP, and it's just simple percentages, guys. He's going to bounce back. He hasn't taken a step back. If anything, he's going to get better, as an offensive player. So this is an easy buy low territory for him. I would highly recommend. And, we're not the hugest Jamal Murray guys. I think we had him at the late early rounds in the B150, but like this just is like an easy science thing. And I would take a look at Monte Morris because they love him in Denver. Malone likes him. He's really played hard. He's performed a good function for them. And I don't know about the other guys. I think that they are too interchangeable. You're going to see one guy, in one game based on matchups. If you need defense, just see Torrey Craig. Wancho's been pretty thin in certain games. I do think that he's put on some extra weight. He looks better this year. Malik Beasley gets in there every once in a while and can throw that spot off. So no, I would only look at Monte Morris, and I would buy low on Mr. Murray.
Houston is the next stop on our tour of league stories. They now boast 3 new 3-and-D guys, although one of them was actually on the team last year. PJ Tucker is the holdover, and the 2 new 3-and-D guys on the Houston Rockets are James Ennis and Gary Clark, with Carmelo Anthony unofficially gone. Do either of those other 2 guys move into the top 100? James Ennis seems to have the first crack at it at the very least, but I mean, it seems like you've got this weird, is there enough beyond Harden, Paul, and Clint Capella for these other guys to rack up a few threes and some steals?
Ennis has been on our radar since he played with the Heat, and he's never quite been able to put the stat set together. But what you are seeing is life in that stat set right now, and you just never know when things are going to snap into place for a player that's in a system that's, we'll call it 3-point friendly, not necessarily steals and blocks friendly, but, as you put better players on the floor, this is my theory, as you put better defensive players on the floor, you're going to see more steals and blocks. So it's possible that he and Gary Clark enjoy some sort of money counting stat benefit being in this location. They're both going to get minutes, and Gary Clark was the one that, I was able to get him in one of my big money leagues. He wasn't available in another big money league. Like the stat provider just didn't notice that he existed. So
he's played for like 10
sucks
games
because
now.
I'm like, he's under the radar, and half the people in my league listen to this show. So, eventually we're gonna have to start talking about him, and boom, I'm probably gonna have to pay more than I would. But I also have question marks. I don't want to get over my skis here with the Gary Clark thing. He has been a top 150 guy pretty much at best while Melo was around, and this week he had a dud, and then this last game was pretty good. So I do think that he's going to level out as a late round guy, depending on the size of your league. I know, Dan, when I see your tweets and your tweet storms, which are, by the way, most excellent, it's probably some of the best coverage that's out there.
Oh, thank you much.
News alert, we might be doing something with that. Your leagues are a little bit shallower than a lot of the leagues that I play in. I think he's probably a better fit for the leagues that I play in that run about 190 players deep, because that late round value can actually play, especially in a 4-game week. In a 12-teamer, and let's say it's an intermediate league, or especially if it's a beginner league, I just think you could do better than either of these guys. So that's really where he shakes out. But you hope that there's some upside, because look at PJ Tucker, man. PJ Tucker is now he's sort of at full throttle, and he's just an easy must-own guy the rest of the year. And you kind of see the outlines of what both of those players could do in a PJ Tucker-like role.
Yeah, they do sort of look like Tucker light, right?
Yeah, they're like the light version and a little bit heavier version. Well, probably not heavier, taller.
Yeah, slightly
a little bit more rangy.
Exactly, and PJ's the one that could play the 5 if they had to go super small. Those other guys
PJ's
probably
the one
not.
You want in a fight.
Oh my God!
On your team.
Oh my God!
That's who you want. I don't want anybody else. I want PJ Tucker backing me up.
I want I want PJ Tucker doing the Homer Simpson. Do you remember when he became a famous boxer episode where he just like got wailed on for a couple hours before the other guy fell over?
I don't think PJ is going to stand for that.
No, but he could. Like the
Yeah.
bulk just on like his head alone. You could just wail on him and he'd be like, "When are you going to be done biting me, mosquito?" Yeah,
remember when Houston made smart free agency decisions and brought people like that on board? Those were the days.
They put out a really nice press release about Carmelo Anthony. Just wouldn't be fair to him.
That makes me wonder how much Chris Paul was involved in that decision. And this is my, like, I can't really tweet about it or, can't formulate an idea that makes sense. Just like I'm pretty sure that the Kevin Durant stuff dates back to the Houston series. Like with Chris Paul and Melo, they're such good friends. I almost wonder if Harden is behind all of this, and nobody wants to say it because nobody wants to piss off James Harden. Where it's like Harden's like, I don't like you, man, or I don't like what you're all about. You're taking my shots, or something in that realm. Harden has been so weird about all the Chris Paul drama, and then when this stuff came out, he was just kind of like, "Don't ask me." Like, nothing to see here.
Well, they've done a better job of not like randomly pinning it on people than Memphis did when
look
Fizdale got
look
fired.
At all Chris Paul's friends are like, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing Melo like that," but they don't want to say it. They don't want to get involved in a flame war with one of the league's best players.
But Melo's bad now. There's just no way around it.
But like, who didn't know that? I mean,
yeah, it's true.
Daryl Morey, are you that?
Yeah.
Like, come on. You don't know this?
Is there any place he could end up?
Please.
We've been making the joke that he's going to have to play in China, but it might be reality. Like, what team would actually take a shot at Melo right now? He doesn't fit anywhere.
You know where I thought, but I don't think he'll go there? Memphis.
Oh, my God. Well, they do play slow, so I guess there's that. The Knicks need scoring.
Players. Cleveland is another one.
Oh, my God. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. All right, next one on the docket. This is Stash Battle 2K18. Bogdan versus Derek White. It looks like Bogdan wins round 2. How does this play out going forward? I'm starting to think that Bogdanovich is separating himself in the two guys, but is that just because Derek White had one really terrible game and it's a recency bias?
I mean, I'm confident that Derek White gives you late round value. I mean, it's just there's too much need for him in San Antonio for him to sit the sidelines like that. So I think it'll take a little bit for him to get, his legs underneath him, but late round value is on its way. Whether that's top 100 value or top 150 value is very much up for debate. We're going to figure out what these Kings are all about. Teams are going to start taking away De'Aaron Fox, and they're going to make the Kings pay for things like, Nemanja Bjelica and some of the stuff they've gotten away with in the first half of the year. And also teams are going to get up for him now. And why that's important is Bogdanovich is very much a tertiary, I don't know if that's the right word, secondary character in this Kings attack, because you've got De'Aaron Fox, who's going to be the man, but they're struggling getting him the ball as much as they should. But Bogdanovich should really be that second engine. They haven't figured it out in Sacramento to establish these things as fact and stuff you don't mess with. But if they start to falter, he will then not be this kind of upside guy that we think he can be. Instead of top 80 to 100, he becomes top 120 to 140. Now, he should be owned no matter what. We're just talking about ROI here. And it's exciting, though, because when you see the way that they've operated without him at that kind of a pace, you get excited because he can theoretically accelerate the engine. And if he's getting 30 minutes per game, hell, I wouldn't even put it outside of the bounds of possibilities for him to jump up into some sort of top 65, 70 value with Buddy Hield, also enjoying top 50, top 60 value, and Fox being right there in that range. As they run up and down the floor and make teams pay. Their pace is just outstanding. But it's going to come down to, can they figure out what they are? Because they get bogged down so easily, especially in the second unit when they start getting off track. You start seeing Iman Shumpert jumpers. You start seeing Costa Kufa and, Marvin Bagley stuff that's not optimized. And that would then contribute to losing. And then if they start losing, I think these young guys lose a little confidence, and then you start to see a little bit of a snowball effect. And in which case, the Vegas over/under might still be in play. As it stands right now, I think they go over. But Bogdan is, much better asset than Derek White, I think, just for that potential top 75 upside.
And the last thing on my list of topics before we get into questions is the Clippers' backcourt. I am in a weird spot here, Brew. I admit, I'm struggling with this one. Because going into the season, I thought Pat Beverly might be able to carve out a little bit of a rebounding role from that point guard spot because they don't have a DeAndre Jordan in town anymore. And that's a big factor. This looks a little bit more like a team that maybe Beverly played with in Houston. He came out of the gates and he didn't try to do anything on the offensive side of the ball. And he just was exclusively focused on trying to shut down his guy on defense. He's done a little bit more of late. We've also seen an emergence of Shai GilgeousAlexander, who, for whatever reason, I don't know why. I can't really pinpoint why I'm a little bit down on him. He's done nothing to give me that indication, other than, they've played a bunch of overtime games, and so stat lines for everybody were a little bit inflated. He finally had that game where he came back down to earth a little bit yesterday at 9 points and 5 boards against the San Antonio Spurs. Why am I so nervous about diving in headfirst on SGA? He seems pretty good.
It's a stat set, Dan.
But what's wrong with it? Because those last 3 games, the stats actually look okay, too.
There's nothing wrong with the stat set other than that it's really super secretly not good in the money counting stat areas. I mean, he's got a sweet shooting stat set, 48% from the field, 83.8% from the foul line. I mean, we know why he's at 48. Because he's not shooting threes. He's getting a lot of shots closer to the rim, but that 1.6, 2.1, that 2.1 per game, it's really significant. You're going to notice that players tip up into the top 150 when they get over a combined 3 per game. And so that's what's holding him back.
You're saying combined 3s, steals, and blocks?
Yeah, money counting stats being 3 steals and blocks. That is going to be the issue. I mean, he's got a really low usage rate, 16.5. That's not working for him. There's a deferral during, any key moments. You got Danilo Gallinari running point a lot during key moments. So I think that's what it is. I think a lot of people see young player, team that they think is bad, though I think the Clippers push for a playoff spot this year.
Yeah, they're not that bad. They're pretty good.
No, they're not. They just got to stay healthy. And, the way that this works out really nicely for owners is if Patrick Beverly gets hurt, but you can't really prep for that. So I think that he's a fine player to own. I think he's going to be in the top 150 for the rest of the season. It's just, what are you getting, beyond that? And in your leagues that might not, a 9 cat, top 150 rating, you might not need that. You're kind of looking at a guy that's doesn't have as much upside as it's being made out to be. And so that's why you're hesitant. But I think I'll say this. He's got a nice late round floor with a little bit of mid round upside. He should definitely be owned. If your team is stacked, it just might not be your team.
Can Pat Beverly start to find any kind of rhythm? His steals are way below where you'd hope in almost 30 minutes a game this year. Is that a number that comes back? I mean, over his career, he's been a fantastic steals and even blocks guy for a point guard, and that's just not there. So is this like it's not even a buy low because he's generally on waiver wires. Is this a guy that's going to rebound at some point, or is this just like the new Pat Beverly where he doesn't steal the ball anymore?
No. He's going to regress. The question with him will be health. And then on the shooting side, is he going to do anything? Like, he will regress in his shooting percentage, I believe. But, like, he's got to be more aggressive on offense. And that's what he was last year. So he's capable of that. He has that gear. They do have a lot of offensive players right now. I mean, you watch them play, he just runs straight to the corner. And, he's out of the pattern. So, but you subtract a few players due to injury, like especially Danilo Gallinari goes out, which would help both Shai GilgeousAlexander and Beverly. But then he starts to become more aggressive, and you get a little bit more in the scoring and the field goal percentage. He's not taking quite as many threes in relation to his shots overall. And he had mid-round upside, or pardon me, mid-round production in last year's 20-some-odd games he played. a lot of people were really happy to have owned Patrick Beverley to start last year, and then he got hurt. So I think late round is a fine expectation for him. And, it's going to come back to that steals number, though. And it's just not very likely that a player's steals rate dips that much, especially since we've already seen him in this location and he hasn't had a problem, really to date. So there's a bounce back there.
I would hope so. I mean, you look at even on a per game, just looking at like a game-to-game thing where sometimes Trevor Ariza is a good example of that. He would go a week where he'd get 1 steal, and then the next week he'd have 14. For Beverley, he had that 4-steal game against Houston back on October 21st, and since then it's been a lot of zeros and a smattering of ones. It's really weird. It just seems like it's not like, is he not getting his hand on the ball? Is he just the on-the-ball defense is so good that it's not forcing a turnover? It's a very strange thing. And like you, I hope and I expect that it will turn around because he's a guy that I'm always watching a little bit.
These are low volume counting stats in very small sample sizes. Everybody's got to keep that in mind. So like this stuff, you got to wait. You got to be patient. You got to evaluate, as if these things haven't happened, unless you think there's like a major fall off or a change in circumstance. You just got to be patient with it. So I think, again, late round value is the way to evaluate him.
To his credit, by the way, over the last 2 weeks, he is inside the top 100. So there's a little sign of life there. He's on the list of guys that I can't stop looking at, even though I know that nothing is going to happen all that quickly, along with Jeremy Lin, who's just been like secretly pretty good over the last little bit. And I keep praying, like, come on, just like realize that Trae Young is hot garbage and only play him 24 minutes a game. But it happens so rarely.
No, they got to ruin the kid first.
Oh, God, you got to break him before you can build him back up. I mean, Lin was great. He played 25 minutes in that last game, had 16, 5, and 5 with 3 3-pointers. That's all he needs.
Yeah, I mean, he's Jeremy Lin. This is what he does. So I get you.
Yeah.
Lin could help some teams with a late round point guard. Lin and Beverley can help teams as late round point guards. It's just, can in Atlanta, can they figure it out? And then you got to deal with the regression in LA.
I'm not banking on them figuring it out in Atlanta. Those are my stories for the week. We've got plenty of other stuff to cover because there's like 4 pages of questions that have already come in. But before we get to that, Brew, I think it's time we thanked everybody for the massive success of our DFS contest this week. Don't you?
I think we should thank people sooner in the show because, it really is you guys that power us. It's you guys that, as we grow, your earballs, eyeballs, everything that you guys, do on the site and the community and the forums, building this out, it's bigger than us. It's really just a kind of a vehicle for you guys to get more out of what you get for basketball coverage, whether it's fantasy or as we grow into journalism and everything else we've got on the radar. So when you play in our DraftKings contest, it's just this little $3 and there's a $15 prize. And, you get the shirt, which is the best prize. And I'm wearing a hoodie.
I got it on.
We'll start
I know you can't see me, but I'm wearing it.
It's the most comfortable, my wife's got one, she wears hers, and it's just like the best, quality, and Adrian Benjamin's is the man. And, we say that ad nauseum. So that's the prize. But really the prize is like, as we continue to show DraftKings more volume in these contests and we continue to build out our DFS side of this operation, which really, we are trying to find the right people that fit our, what we do around here, which is, it's different, we got a lot of passionate people that put in a lot of their life into this. And so we're pretty patient about who we pick up and bring on. But the DFS side is so huge for what our future plans are. So when we can show DraftKings the type of membership that entries that we've shown in these contests is so big, it allows us to have more contests, it allows us to continue to build out that side of the operation. So it's just this silly little contest that you guys can join in. But, we got 50 in the last one. When we did this last year, we were getting like 8. We filled that thing up quick. We want to keep growing, and if we could have one of those every day, I'd be giving out a t-shirt, a hoodie every day. And it's but that's where we want to be, and you guys are helping us do that. So along with everything else that you guys do, visiting the site and jumping into the premium products, like I can't say enough. My gratitude is off the charts for you guys.
We will likely have another one of these contests in the not-too-distant future. If you'd like to be alerted of them, you should follow all of us on Twitter because we go a little bit ham on the contest as it's approaching. At Hoopball Fantasy, at Hoopball Tweets. I am, of course, at Dan Besbris, as you can see on your YouTube screen, and he is at Aaron Bruski. So follow all of us.
Tell him the premium bit.
That's the next one. Fear not, my good man. That's on the list as
Almost like you've been doing this for a while.
Fear not. Well, I actually bothered to write things down today. I didn't want to forget any individual note.
Kids out there, listen and learn.
Write it down. Write it down. Even if it's just a notepad document.
Prep for the show.
.txt. This is where I'm getting all my info right now. You can get the premium Hoopball membership by signing up for a new DraftKings account and depositing $10 in it. It's actually kind of amazing.
That's what the guy who won the shirt this last week did. He literally signed up. He probably used John Schifferle's picks and then won the contest. Now he's getting a shirt and he's got a free membership as well.
Yeah. And so that's your best case scenario, which is pretty sweet. So you go to hoop-ball.com, you click on the premium tab, you choose the get premium free option. That's under Go Premium. So premium, Go Premium, free. It'll take you to a page that explains the partnership with DraftKings. You navigate to DraftKings there, open up a new account, put $10 in it. I think DraftKings has actually given you a free entry into a $3 contest with your first deposit on top of that. So he may have actually gotten into this contest for free, won $15 and a t-shirt, and has the premium membership for the entire year. And he could spend the other $10 that he put into his account. He'll still actually be up money because he placed in the top 10 of our competition one time. That's it. So you get the premium, you end up money, and he won a t-shirt. That's
and half of us suck.
And oh my God, dude, I am so bad at this. I've taken heat on this podcast from people saying that I don't talk about my misses enough. I mean, you want me to talk about a miss? I was third to last in this thing. I was at the bottom. My good friend Neil Rochlani, fellow podcast host over here at Hoopball, dead last. I suck at DFS, man, but I will happily give our listeners $3 of my dollars.
Blake Griffin's sitting on there, and I'm like, I can't take Blake Griffin. What a terrible stat set.
Yeah,
but
stat set is wonderful.
Really good. He's really good in DFS.
What we need to do, Brew, is we need to sign up for one season-long league that's 7-cat, and maybe we can actually start to figure this thing out. You eliminate the percentages and completely. It's a points league, effectively.
Beware, people. If I start taking this seriously, I'm taking you all out. I'm going to be the best DFS player this world's ever seen.
Well, join us while Brew is learning because you can still take his money.
Yeah, if you want to beat me up a little bit, join this contest. But no, I mean, there's a lot of Hoopball staffers that are in here. So I don't know, maybe 10% of the 20% of the league sucks.
And it's mostly us. It's mostly us.
That's why we're building out the DFS side of the operation.
That's right. Thank goodness for Micah Patria. He's going to teach us all, and John as well. These guys are amazing. Mike is, of course, the official pro that you're trying to beat in that competition.
Well, John's stuff isn't fair because he's a brainiac with just like he would probably have plugs in his brain that's pouring the numbers into the Schifferle's DFS picks of the day. And we've talked about how he comes to his numbers, and it's very, very smart. And that if you're into DFS, that part of the premium membership is definitely in play.
I will say, this is my fun little anecdote before we pivot to taking some questions. I set my DFS lineup before Schifferle's article came out for the day. I read it, hoping that there would be some sort of correlation. Zero. I had zero.
You didn't even have Spencer Dinwiddie, man.
I had nobody in my thing that was on his list. Overall, my team, I had a few guys that actually played relatively well, but I had some dudes where it was just like, I had Julius Randle. I thought he'd be able to pick on Minnesota doing whatever weird stuff they had. That didn't work out at all.
Hey, my second night, so after the first contest, I played the second night. Right after it, man, I had a legit shot at a big ass win. It was fun, but Kyle Kuzma let me down.
Oh,
damn you, Kyle Kuzma! I mean, it was I was going to win like a 50,000 person tournament if Kyle Kuzma went off, and no,
damn.
So I just had a mediocre good night.
Quick mention here on some sports betting stuff. You guys know I like to drop my leans in. Utah coming off a 50-point loss. They are going to be angry, and they are playing against a Philly team that has no idea who's supposed to do what now.
What's the number on that?
That is Utah +3. They are catching 3.
Crap. Are you serious?
I am serious.
Wow.
Are you driving to Reno?
No, because the last time I thought the Kings were going to get murdered, they ended up being a good basketball team.
Yeah, but this is just one night. Utah catching 3 in Philadelphia. I like that one. I also kind of like Boston in a revenge spot against Toronto. They are a 2-point home favorite. Raptors are in just a little mini skid right now, and I don't know that anybody's noticed it yet. So those are the 2 things that I was taking a gander at tonight. But you guys don't care about that. You want questions today. Today is a day for questions. I have cut and pasted them into a Word document such that those posted early this morning remain in existence until we actually get to them. And so we shall begin. I am looking at the timer here. I try to keep track of where we're at, and I think we're around the 43 or 44 minute mark. So we're going to try to do whatever we can to get into that 1 hour window, which, by the way, I liked to do in the past, but now we have to do it because we got a show that airs on Dash Radio. Thank you to those folks over there for working with me on a bunch of time issues. And that one, we actually have 1 hour. So if we go over, it just doesn't air. So we're doing a 1 hour show, guys, and that is now something that actually needs to happen. So let me see if I can figure out what order we do these questions in. Brew, you ready for some Q&A?
Yeah, you can't hold me back with your 1 hour.
I mean, you're going to make me do a bunch of editing when this is over, huh?
No, I'll be fast. I got it. I got pen, paper. Let's do this.
Ben says, I missed out on James Ennis. Should I be upset?
No.
That was an easy one. Wilson Chandler, Shelvin Mack, Mike Muscala. Which one do you like for the end of your bench?
Shelvin Mack. He's been pretty good.
There you go. You're the only other person on earth that's actually said his name in a positive light besides me. And I feel good about that. I just traded Lonzo Ball and TJ Warren for Otto Porter. This is a 9-category head-to-head league. How did I do?
Extraordinarily well.
I like TJ Warren this year. I know that's not part of our lightning round.
Both of them are pretty good, but I mean, like top 80, top 90. I mean, Otto Porter could be top 20, 30 if, he gets, if, Scott Brooks and he get over whatever their little tiff is. But yeah, no, the Otto Porter side wins.
By the way, if you're working on moving TJ Warren, this would be a pretty good time to do it. He's inside the top 10 over the last week. He's number 3, guys. That is unsustainable. He's been good, but he's not going to be that good. Thoughts on Willie Hernan-Gomez? Is he ever going to get any kind of minutes? My guess, by the way, Brew, is no, because it looks like he still doesn't know how to play defense.
Yeah, it's the defense. It's also the just kind of general inconsistency. But they got another guy that got to get minutes for every once in a while in Bismack Biyombo. I mean, when there's no clear distinction between the players as far as what they bring to the table, you don't want a guy sitting on the shelf for 40 straight games. So you're going to just see a little bit of, 20-minute action and some 10-minute action. And yeah, there's nothing there from a fantasy perspective in most leagues.
Womp womp. CJ McCollum versus Chris Middleton.
Chris Middleton, Dan.
Yeah.
Chris Middleton.
I want to let you answer that one. I think I could have done that one for you. Hey, guys, 8-category league. Someone dropped Markelle Fultz. Is he worth filling my streamer slot in case he ends up with any kind of value? I mean, I don't know, dude. Did you see the brain bleep that already happened to him this year? I'll let Brew answer this one, but you know my thoughts.
Yeah, no, I mean, actually on the Cos and Brew show, I talked a little bit about the yips and how to work through them. He's got the yips. Like that I've had the yips as a baseball pitcher in the past, and he has, like, if there's any question, it's not an injury, it's not nothing, it is the yips, and he's gonna be unplayable in many respects until he gets through that. And I don't know that we talked about it in the show, but like Philly, he should probably get traded. So yeah, no on Markelle Fultz, because he's got a long road ahead of him to fix that.
Yeah, I don't think Jimmy Butler being around is going to be all that great for it either. How do you rank these guys rest of season 8 cat? What do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not too tough. No, 3. It's only 3. You don't even need your pen and paper. Tyreek Evans, Chetty Osman, and Mikal Bridges.
Ain't that a fun group? Man, Chetty's like gotta get minutes and touches now.
Yeah.
With the way that has gone, I gotta rank him over to Tyreek. Mikhail's the upside play, and I think you might have mentioned this on Twitter, but I'm glad that he struggled a little bit in minutes.
Yep.
I actually dropped Mikhail for Gary Clark in one big money league, and I remember Clark had the dud, and Mikhail was about to get minutes, and I'm like, God damn it! And then it evened out a little bit, so I'll probably get a chance to go back to the well. It's just whenever Phoenix decides to force the action to him, but there's a big question whether or not Devin Booker knows how to pass.
Not well.
I mean, he's going to catch a lot of heat. You don't make that much money and play that bad basketball without catching some heat eventually. I think that heat's going to start hitting him this year. But, so Mikhail, can he survive all that? When is that going to kick in? We know he's got the great shooting stat set. He's got a great stat set in general. I'm going to rank them Chetty, Mikhail, and then Tyreek. Will
Gordon Hayward get going? Is he a buy low?
Can I add that I'd rather have Mikhail than Chetty? I just want to add that. I'd rather have Mikhail than Chetty. I mean, I think, though, that Chetty's probably got a better shot at higher value for the rest of the year. I would just rather own Mikhail Bridges.
Interesting.
It's a weird, you don't want to get up here. It's a weird place.
Yeah, some strange stuff going on in that noggin of yours. Gordon Hayward, is he a buy low, or is this just going to be a down year for him?
Yeah, he's a buy low right now. But don't expect much more. I mean, he's going to get 2 to 3 rounds of value gain, but it's not coming from where he's coming at in the late rounds. It's not as much as you'd think it would be. He can't be this bad going forward, and he will improve. But yeah, the preseason expectations were way off for him.
This is a two-parter. I can handle the first half. Is Brook Lopez worth a top waiver pick? Yes. Rest of season rank? I'm going to throw that one over to you.
I think he could go top 60. I mean, theoretically, he could go higher, but I think realistically speaking, top 60 is his ceiling. But he's got a nice top 100 floor. And that's when you're talking first waiver rank. If you can secure an asset that's definitely going to be productive for you, you got to do it.
We're going to throw this in here, Antonio, because I don't think I did the warning on today's show. We generally don't do these 3-for-3 trades on these podcasts because they are very team-specific, and answering this question would literally only help one person. But we're going to do it today because I forgot to warn everybody. So, Brew, it's a quick 3-for-3 here. Victor Oladipo, Etuan Moore, and Rudy Gay. So, Depot and then some guys that are back towards the end of the top 100. For Klay Thompson, Otto Porter, and Nick Vucevic. Basically a lot for Oladipo, mostly.
At least it's interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah, I think it's basically, like you said, it's Oladipo for 3. If we want to call them 3rd to 4th rounders.
Wow.
Here's why I take the Oladipo side. You can take those 2 roster spots that you're getting and do something with them. This trade is very even. Oladipo could probably concern some people that he's not top 10, that he's maybe top 20. But I think that he's got enough skill and upside, and the long game here, he's going to remain healthy probably. I would have a hard time going beneath top 15 for an evaluation of Victor Oladipo for the rest of the year. And that is a big jump from where Klay and Otto and Vooch has been, I think, top 15 himself, maybe even better to start the year, but that should settle back in. It's a lot on that other side. If you had depth issues with your team, I could take the 3 players that are really good and, split Oladipo up. But if you can take Oladipo and those 2 roster spots and use those 2 roster spots to get guys that are on the upswing and, parlay this into more of a first round and a top 75 and a top 75 guy, I'm always looking for that kind of opportunity.
What's John Collins going to do when he gets back?
John Collins stuff. He's just going to dunk. He's going to dunk and rebound and
top 50
shots and steals. And yeah, top 50 is absolutely in play.
Bones. Hey, guys, question. Is it good that I'm in 1st or 2nd in 6 out of my 7 leagues? Yeah, man. That's pretty good. Henry.
It's fun, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's nice to get off to quick starts. That's That's a good thing. Would you drop Derek White to pick up Jonathan Isaac? I'm going to answer that one for you and say, yep. Bone says, I do have an actual question. Do you think in similar situations, Jonas Valanciunas and Ennis Cantor can keep top 80 value, or are you concerned about them and would use a few good games to try to cash out on either of those guys?
I don't know. I kind of think that Jonas is an asset that I want to keep because I don't like where Serge Ibaka's health is generally at all. So you subtract him if he starts taking games off or he's got to get, like a cleanup surgery or something like that with his knee. That 19 minutes per game he's getting right now jumps up to 23, 24 real quick. This is why he was in the HB6 because he was like a safety blanket in the middle rounds when you needed a big man, because if you couldn't get one early and you had to wait until late, and then all of the traditional big men are scarce, and then you look at a guy like Brook Lopez. Did you want to pin your season on the threes and the blocks and the 3 rebounds of a Brook Lopez? No. But Jonas just sort of sat there and was like, yeah, I can give you top 75 value in 19 minutes per game. But then what if? What if Serge Ibaka declines? What if Serge Ibaka needs time off? Siakam is surging like we predicted. But now Jonas, I'd hang on there. To me, it's easy money.
Cantor, what about same thing? Or
Cantor, I'm worried about, actually. Cantor, I'm only worried about because the one worry I had about him this year, it was really hard to quantify, was that toward the end of the year, he gets lippy. The Knicks are turning the page. They're not going to bring him back. Or they're looking at, can we trade this guy? Or whatever happens at the end of the year for a team that's going in a different direction. And you're already seeing it with Mitchell Robinson. They could flip-flop. You could see Cantor start to get 20 minutes, Mitchell Robinson get the 28. And, then Cantor, he's got right to be upset. He's out there trying to make money for his next deal. So those are the worries that I have with Cantor. I didn't express them as much as I probably could have in the B150, but, early on getting benched, you sort of got a taste of that. So I would try to, with Cantor as he settles in and puts up the numbers everybody expected him to, I'd try to move him and, cash my value in while I can.
I just found out looking at Twitter that my Boston recommendation is on the other side of that game than a fairly high-profile new person in the betting industry, and I feel okay about that. Question on Joel Embiid. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I've just seen some things out there that makes me feel better about my recommendation. Sometimes you
great. That's like salt. I love the salt, man.
A little salt. I mean, it's like before betting became more mainstream, you basically just faded everything that ESPN said. If they talked about a team and a super, you just go the other way because money's going to come in on the wrong side because of that type of analysis. So just saying, sometimes it's good to be opposite people. That's the point I wanted to make from that. Is Joel Embiid a legit top 10 guy this year?
Sure seems like it. If you look by games, or cumulative value, he already is. He's already the top guy. But they've had a lot of games. Look, he's the one guy I think can bring the league back to some sort of reality with playing big versus playing small. I mean, he's really putting his head down and playing bully ball. I love that. And so if he harnesses everything that he's got as a talent, yeah, absolutely. I think he can do it. You worry about injury risk. And one of the worries about him preseason in terms of valuations was, would there be enough touches, when you've got Markelle Fultz that purportedly would improve and purportedly would take a bigger role. And, you had Saric, Covington doesn't take a lot of touches, but, you had this team that could siphon off touches. Now I think it's his team. The Jimmy Butler thing could definitely hit him, but I kind of feel like it won't. And I kind of feel like Jimmy might not have the step on guys that he used to have. I think he's going to command a lot of touches, but they also might see the game the same way, those two, that dog eat dog mentality. And that's why I also worry about Simmons. I don't think he's got that dog in him.
So
I think those two do.
I got to leap in right now. Here's what we're going to do. I got to put a pin in the recorded version because that's got to get out at the 1 hour mark. But then we'll continue to take questions live on YouTube after the show. It's going to be like, overtime with Brew and Dan. So thank you to everybody for listening all week long. Those of you listening on the traditional podcast channels, I hope you'll join us on YouTube next time around. Fantasy NBA Today will be back on Monday with our good buddy, Neil Rochlani. We're going to talk about how bad we are at DFS. Make sure to follow everybody on Twitter. For Aaron, I'm Dan. Have a lovely weekend. We'll be back with you on Monday. YouTube gets to keep going.
Like a 5-tool player, Dan.
Yep, got to do a lot of stuff right now. So now I got to put a pin over there. Remember where I got to edit that bad boy out. So we'll keep the questions rolling here. We are going to try to keep them moving at a pretty good clip just because, there's still a half of a day left. This is a weird question. This one came in actually in our forums as well. This is from Bobby, and I think he sort of answers his own question. I'm in a 2-center league, and I needed one, so I picked up Cody Zeller. I can punt threes and points, which moves Zeller into a pretty good spot. Do I instead drop him and pick up non-centers like a Colin Sexton, a Cedi Osman, a Danny Green, because maybe they're better overall, or do I stick with Zeller because I need the center and for the stats that I'm looking for, he's superior? To me, I feel like he answered his own question, but what do you think?
I see where both of you are going with both the things you're saying. Yeah, he is answering his own question. And yeah, it is to keep Cody Zeller. In a 2-center league, you are really at the whim of the schedule if you don't have that covered up. And I don't know about your format and how many players you can carry and what that means to your team. But I think when we make decisions in fantasy leagues, injuries and bad assets force us to do things that are almost not exponential, but like there's an added tax to the bad decisions that we make because we have to choose between two bad things. So we really start taking risks we shouldn't have to take. I mean, let's look at Steph Curry for a second here. I was able to, because a lot of my teams are doing well, I was able to sit Stephen Curry this week because I didn't have to care. I was like, you know what? I don't need to worry about the what if this number one asset comes back for 2 or 3 games and just plug in a guy who's doing pretty well. And so the difference, though, I have one team where it was like, my options weren't great. So I end up playing Steph, which is a bad call any way you slice it, and in a weekly league, and I lose. And so this kind of things, if you don't have your second center spot, nailed down, you're just going to compound issues by not having that nailed down. He fits your build, so you go with him.
Is it possible to make it in the 6th seed from now all the way to the playoffs? I mean, I guess anything's possible. This next question actually is basically what you answered in your assessment of Joel Embiid and Jimmy Butler, so we're going to leap over that one. How long can Shelvin Mack keep this up? That's a good-ass question.
I mean, presumably for a while. I mean, they're such a weird organization because they're, possibly being sold and all that good stuff. I think he will experience regression and it's going to hurt and it's going to take him down to the top 140, 150, range. And then that's when people are going to drop him if they've even added him in the first place. But as of right now, he's a core part of this team and they don't have depth and he's going to keep doing it. He's going to be a top 140 guy no matter what.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? What a universe. Somehow Slow-Mo keeps giving me reasons to keep him on my team like an ex you can't get rid of. Yeah, I mean, to me it feels like Slow-Mo's basically here now, right?
Well, you can get rid of that ex, but you can't get rid of Slow-Mo.
Nope, can't get rid of Slow-Mo.
It's all turning up for him.
Yeah,
and
we're there. Justin Holiday, can he hold value even after the Bulls get healthy?
I think so. I mean, he's proven in the past that he can. And, if anything, less shots means better field goal percentage for him. So,
God, can you believe it? Top 45.
I mean, we've been Justin Holiday guys for a while here.
That is true.
So none of it's really surprising. Once Denzel Valentine, I get pissed off. I should have known better. When Denzel Valentine's ankle started acting up, I should have just gone with my gut and just thrown him way up the rankings the way I usually do and enjoyed the benefits of that. I mean, we've got him a lot of places. But yeah, no, he's good. He's going to be a late round guy for the rest of the year.
Easy peasy. What's kind of nice is that this is not going out on recorded cast, so I don't have to be as quick with my questions. We're just live and cruising through now. Pat Connaughton, is he a short-term pickup?
I'm tempted to do who, but no.
He's in Milwaukee now, right? Didn't he move?
Yeah, he is. He's in Milwaukee. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Taurean Prince, he's having some issues with turnovers and shooting percentages. This seems oddly familiar. You waiting this one out?
Oh yeah, I mean his skill work has improved. He's just a really good player. That team was always one of the reasons that I don't have Prince on as many rosters as you think I would. Is that they suck in Atlanta and that everybody's shooting percentages were going to suffer, and so he needs to pick up his steals game, and he needs to pick up his blocks game, and he needs to, hit a few more threes, or actually not threes. Threes aren't too much of an issue, but like he just will get a little bit better.
The turnovers,
and he needs to stop turning it over.
Yeah, that's the one for me.
It's killing his 9-cat rank, which you kind of had to know was going to happen. I think I had him at like 60 for 9-cat and 40 for 8-cat. He's going to be fine. He's a great buy low right now.
You looking at Thon Maker at all with everybody kaput on the Milwaukee front line for the time being?
Nah.
Points league. We got a points league question, so now you got to really buckle up. Who would you trade for John Collins in a point league? Gallinari, Millsap, Siakam. I guess this almost becomes more of like who is your top guy in a points league format. I mean, this one honestly is over my head. I'm not a points league guy. So it's Collins, Gallo, Millsap, and Siakam points league.
No, stick with Collins because Collins is going to double quite a bit. And all of those guys you listed, like Millsap is more of a money counting stat guy. I mean, he might push to beat Collins, but we don't know. Collins could easily go for way more than double, something in the high teens for scoring.
Would you trade Gallo? You'd trade any of those three guys for him. Who would be the first guy you'd move? Would it be Gallo?
Yeah, Gallo, because the injury risk, and also, unless your point system is set up to reflect a standard league valuation, he's the guy that he's getting most of his values from free throw right now.
Yeah.
He would be first, and then the other cats would be in the middle there.
Ben Simmons, Victor Oladipo in a points league battle. Because this is where Ben Simmons actually has some value again. Do you take him over Depot, or is it Victor, especially now with Jimmy Butler around?
I'm going to go with Victor because I think what we know we're going to get is something in the mid-20s for scoring, maybe more, and then something in the middle 4, 5, 6 range for rebounds and assists. So you're going to get ballpark, 37, 38 points if you go to point for each thing. And I got concerns. I mean, yeah, Simmons is going to get his rebounds, he's going to get his assists, but that scoring number could be way down. So I'm going to take Oladipo there.
Someone in my league offered me LeBron for an elite keeper. I have Kawhi, Jokic, and Kemba. Would you trade any of those players for him in an 8-cat league? I'm to assume, I think here with the way this is phrased, that means LeBron cannot be kept. So and the other three guys presumably can. So
I'm going to assume he can keep LeBron because why would they be able to keep him?
I don't know. I don't even know why then it becomes. I guess because LeBron is older than these other guys.
You're asking a question of, are you going to win this year? Because if you are, then LeBron would probably be favored over Kemba. I don't know that he would be favored necessarily over Kawhi. And the third guy there was
Jokic.
I mean,
8-cat, by the way, 8-cat.
Yeah, I mean, Jokic is going to be good for another 3-4 years. So LeBron could possibly be good, into that first round range for the next year. So you probably add your winning window has to be within the next 2 years. I mean, if they add a super team in LA along the lines of what you're hearing, or whatever they do, adding players, LeBron has enjoyed a couple years here late in his career of a renaissance dating back to his early career stuff. I'm just shocked he can still do it. I mean,
he's amazing.
I do see deterioration to his game as well. I mean, he'll crank it up in the playoffs, but defensively, woof, man.
Yeah, not great.
God.
Not great.
You see him kick at the Kings? Like he literally just flung his leg out at a
that was
player.
rough. That game against the Blazers, though, was the first one where he was like, I think I'm going to do a playoff LeBron in the regular season just to remind everybody that I'm the man. And that was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, you can crank it up with the best of them. He'll be able to crank it up for 4 or 5 years, but that keeper window, to bring it back to the question, that keeper window is 1 to 2 years. Because otherwise, I mean, a lot of these guys are in the same valuation. I don't think we're going to evaluate LeBron as a top 3 guy for the rest of the year. He's more of a mid-first round, late first-round guy, which is where, Jokic is and Kawhi as well.
Yep. Do you think I could get Steph Curry for Devin Booker, Slow-Mo, and Mitch Robinson? No, I don't think so. I'm gonna say probably not.
And it's America. Anything's possible.
Anything is possible. That's right. Your big piece.
Well, actually, we're worldwide, so it's planet Earth. Anything's possible.
Listen, and we'll keep this one short. Your big piece in that trade is Devin Booker, and he's currently number 71 in 9-cat. Largely, the 4.8 turnovers are hurting you in that one. Steph Curry is the number 1 player in 9-cat. You're gonna have to step your game up a little bit. Do you think Darren Collison is ever going to pick it up? We might actually differ on this one. I think he's actually going to be okay. It sounds like a report emerged that he got called out in a practice, and then his minutes have actually gone up a bit since then. And also, Tyreek Evans looks like a disaster. So for me, I think Collison does work his way back. Maybe not, top 50 like he was last year, but I still think he's going to be a top 80 guy this year.
I understand both sides of this. I understand it looked terrible for him, and yeah, I'm with everything you said, Dan. It's just Tyreek is this character that we covering the Kings know quite a bit about, and he had this amazing year last year that really went against expectations. But the bulk of his career has been about not having the in between the ears game to survive a situation where he's asked to be a guy that he doesn't want to be right now. It sounded like it might work, but it doesn't appear to be working. And so, that means Collison will have a better role.
Let's see here. Jaren Jackson Jr. and Jonathan Isaac or...
Okay, there's an or here.
That's
all right.
That's one side of the trade. The other side of the trade is John Collins and Bogdan.
Well, now that's you're making me think here.
9-cat.
Thank you. So the valuation on those two assets that are the young assets is like we're talking the rest of the season. So we can ignore the fact that Isaac's missed all these games. And it's going to hinder his end of season ranking.
Right.
But going forward, he's at least a top 100 guy for the rest of the year in 9-cat, I think. It's encouraging that the coaching staff continues to point out how he changes the game when he's on the floor. And that's why we're so high on him, is that he actually does. I mean, it's really phenomenal to watch him move out there. So I think both guys have top 60 kind of written all over them. And I know for a fact that Isaac's not being valued like that out there in the fantasy world. So those are your valuations on the other side. And the other side is interesting because you got Collins, who's probably in a 9-cat league, a good safe bet at top 50 value. And but then Bogdanovich in a 9-cat league, I'm gonna actually kick that side of the trade out because he, with the turnovers, becomes more of a top 100, top 120 guy. That's obviously not what you're getting on the other side of the deal. So take the young gun. Sorry, it took me a little bit to figure that one out, but we're there now, Dan.
We're
got
there
now.
All right, well, because it is now 12:40 here on the left coast, it is time to go a little more lightning-y. We just, not because we don't like you, but because we're like 4 pages of questions deep at this point.
And I got to go.
Yeah, Bruce got to go, man. We got to get this dude back to a whole bunch, like the 95 things he's got left. So we're going lightning round style. I see a few questions here that are going to be good for it. Al Horford, will he finish inside the top 40?
What was the name it garbled out?
Al Horford.
Top 40? No.
Jonathan Isaac versus Derek White.
Isaac, landslide.
Is there a world where Cody Zeller can be a top 90 guy?
Yes, and it's on Mars, but that's close enough to Earth. It's possible.
Would you drop him, Quinn Cook, or Mikal Bridges to pick up and stash Chris Dunn?
Quinn Cook. I mean, well, Quinn Cook's got value for 2 weeks. It's really what your team's all about during those 2 weeks.
Yeah. I got offered Draymond Green. Oh my God. 4 for 3. This is too tough. Okay. All right, we're gonna go lightning style on this, so I'm gonna do my best. Thank you, Angel. This is going to break us today. Draymond, Taurean Prince, Lonzo Ball, and slow-mo. Draymond Green, Taurean Prince, Lonzo Ball, and slow-mo. The other side of the trade is Ben Simmons, Rob Covington, and Jonas Valanciunas. I have...
Take the 4.
Yeah, I mean... There's also a double-double bonus. I'm not sure that helps.
Oh, no. What?
Yeah, that's too much.
With all due respect, I think I know who Angel is. Angel has been a longtime supporter of the show and deserves our ultimate respect, but that is not a lightning round question.
That's a tough
if
one.
I've ever seen one, Dan.
To the forum, Angel. Take that bad boy to the forum. Somebody will get you over there at hoop-ball.com/forum, or click on the forum tabs. That's a really tough one to do without like writing it all out. That's 7 guys and weird categories. Gary Harris versus Joe Ingles, rest of season 9-cat.
9-cat, eh?
Yeah.
It's gonna be Mr. Harris.
Is fantasy now more about predicting and managing injuries than just who to play? A little bit, I guess. That's not really a lightning round question either. I mean, I think that, I don't know. I think it gets more attention than it deserves. Guys have always gotten hurt, you know?
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Is it possible that Lillard is not as valuable in roto as he is in head-to-head? His value is heavily weighted on free throws. If you don't need a boost in free throws, or if you don't own punt free throw guys, do you treat him as a top 20? No, I mean, his value is his value.
That's the thing with a long time ago, this is not lightning round, but a long time ago, there was no numeric evaluation of fantasy assets. This was 10 years ago. You know, maybe there was, but it just wasn't mainstream. The idea that somebody got you value in percentage categories or was, you know, heavily weighted versus not heavily weighted, things that were big and poppy got people's attention. So there was a differentiation in head-to-head ranks versus roto ranks. All of this is like, there's space for both sides of the camp in this issue. You know, I did the show with Chef on Sunday, and he's a big head-to-head guy. I'm a big roto guy. So, like, we're like a perfect match to talk about some of this stuff. If your team build, you know, supports taking from one category to give to another, by all means, that makes sense. But it doesn't make the asset any different than what it is. It's providing value in XYZ area. If you want to say a lopsided asset might be hard to optimize, well, I guess you could make a counter argument that the asset is actually, you know, you're able to punt more effectively because that asset is so lopsided in a given category, whatever it may be.
Yeah, you can change. Sorry, I just was going to say it allows you, where a guy like Lillard, the example here, it allows you to make adjustments to other parts of your team, knowing that you have this buffer. Like, I think to say that his value is diminished in one role is a disservice because your team is not going to be the same all season long. You can make adjustments.
Here's where I think the discussion really goes to. So let's say I keep a balanced team. Now the entire market is available to me. So you could look at that as a pro or a con, because you could say, if I now limit my universe to the previous questioner saying, you know, I'm punting points and threes, now there's a universe of players that are actually not valuable to a balanced team, but are valuable to a punt team. So therefore, I have access to a different group of players that might be more available. So you could say there's less action for those players that come into my universe's value. You know, I can get those players more easily. And the counter argument, if you have a balanced team, is because I have access to more players, I'm going to be able to navigate that situation better. I happen to prefer a balanced team. Therefore, I have more options. I could go in different directions if I want. I don't know that there's a right answer. It's my preference to have access to more players because then I just can have more options. But I could see where somebody would say, you know what, ain't nobody going to want Cody Zeller, but he's very valuable to my team, and therefore I'm going to go with this strategy. A lot of it just comes down to draft day. If on draft day your team gets sent a direction because of valuations and the way that goes, I think you just got to be flexible. Flexibility is something that I appreciate. So that's my style, but I don't think that the valuations They don't change. They're just
Right.
different game plans.
Yep. Bean says, I have so many hoopball guys on my team. Brew would be proud. And then Bones said, I've got even more. Brew would be even prouder. I love these guys. Goofballs. Frank, me and DeKangs don't talk no more. Noted that indeed Neil was dead last in the DFS competition.
Wait. Neil's getting salted on like that.
Yeah, Neil's
just to confirm. No, Neil was last place.
Now, in Frank's defense, Neil did actually tweet it out that he was one of the few guys behind me in that competition. So the world was aware by his hand. So I'm not gonna pin it on Frank there. Roberto says, is Derek White a drop candidate? I mean, sort of.
Yeah, it kind of depends on your needs there. If a top 125 player that's a little bit inconsistent right now isn't going to float for you, then yeah, he's droppable.
Question about someone we've already, James Ennis. We talked about him right at the beginning of the show, Roberto. If you go back and you fire up the first thing and fast forward through me and Brew talking about, I don't remember. We talked about something silly at the beginning of the show today.
It was not our best television.
It was fine. People love that crap.
It's my fault. I'll own that.
That's not true.
My bad.
I like the BS at the beginning. That's part of our routine. Gets us in the flow.
I'm sure people aren't listening anyway.
That's right.
They'll start talking about what we want in 15 minutes.
I love that Bob Uecker reference, by the way. There, nobody's listening anyway. Yeah, James Ennis we covered. It was one of the main topics. I think it was like the third one we talked about Houston's 3-and-D stuff. Just traded DeAndre Ayton for Josh Richardson. Who won that trade?
Ooh, I kind of like the DeAndre Ayton side of that trade
because of center scarcity, that type of thing, or just.
No, I think he's going to outproduce him. I also think he hasn't played that well yet. So I think there's room for improvement. I mean, they could, hey, look, Booker could ruin a lot of stuff in Phoenix, and he could ruin Ayton. I mean, I watch stuff that happens there, and I go, oh, man, that poor center is trying to learn how to play the game. He has this year, he will not learn any of the finer nuances of how to play good basketball because they all run around in this offense that makes no sense because Devin Booker is Devin Booker. So, yeah, but no, I think that Ayton's going to win that. So sorry, man. Sorry.
The Devin Booker has one of the very few assist to turnover ratios where I have to bust out a calculator, which is 6.9 to 4.8. I'm just going to round it to 7 to 5.
Speaking of assist to turnover, you know who's got just a crazy assist to turnover, and I haven't tweeted it out or anything?
Is it Spencer Dinwiddie?
No. You would think that would be the first thing I'd tweet. The winner of that is Monte Morris.
Oh, interesting.
Prior to this last game, because I don't know off the top of my head how many turnovers he had.
8 to 1.
8 to 1.
Wow.
And I looked at historic numbers, like 4 or 5 is as high as it goes. Like,
how about that?
Yeah. How about that? It's not like he's not handing the ball out. 4 assists a game. I mean, he's taking chances.
4 assists to half a turnover. That's interesting. The second Derek White for Jonathan Isaac question in the chat room. You've already got the answer to that one. Kawhi Leonard versus Paul George rest of season.
Give me Kawhi.
He's got a higher ceiling.
I'm just a sucker, man. Just a sucker.
You are. Paul George is having a hell of a start to his year, though. He's number 6 in 9 cat. That's pretty sweet.
There's a guy named Russell Westbrook who hasn't played that much.
Due to come back. Paul George shooting 41.5% from the field. Let's hope that comes up a little bit. Let's see. Got to go with Isaac over Derek White. Couple of discussions in the chat room. Jeremy Lamb, Danny Green, or PJ Tucker rest of season. This one has to be for me, right? This is like the Dan Besbris. He's got 2 of the 3 Dan Besbris old man guys in there.
Are you gonna step up, Dan, and match your talk?
No, I'm going Jeremy Lamb. He's awesome.
Oh, good man.
Yeah.
A great fantasy analyst does not put their personal preseason or whatever they've been vocal about. Doesn't put that ahead of the goodwill and the the fate of the owners.
Yeah, Jeremy Lamb was drafted. The other guys weren't. That to me is the big difference there. Jeremy Lamb is a top 60 guy in 25 minutes a game.
Yeah, he's still got higher to climb, and he will climb higher.
Yeah.
So that's thankful for Jeremy Lamb on my teams.
Yeah, Danny Green, PJ Tucker, both sitting just inside the top 80. Jeremy Lamb is better than them right now, so there's nothing that's going to sort of change that stuff. I traded Joel Embiid and Eric Bledsoe for Giannis. What do we think about that one? I mean, I almost can't answer questions about Giannis because everybody just thinks I hate him.
Why do you hate Giannis, man?
Probably because he's shooting 69%.
That's the old David Stern question that he asked. He was getting questioned on the radio. Somebody during lockout days, he didn't like the question. So David Stern asked the host, I think it was Jim Rome, says, "Why do you beat your wife, Jim?" Something like that.
Dude, David Stern is the scariest man in sports. Nobody can change my opinion of that. That dude is...
He's something else. And I think the best moment of my journalistic career was when I got him to give me a one-word answer, which lawyers, like, if they don't like what you're asking, they will just give you a no. Right? They don't want to say anything else that could, like, because it's the implication. Like, why, Dan, do you hate Giannis?
Oh, well, right. So you say no.
You don't. You don't hate Giannis, but I asked you why. Now the listener thinks, well, Dan must at least hate him a little bit.
I do.
He's being asked about that.
His free throw stroke, by the way.
So I asked him a question about Sacramento. If the idea that they create and become the blueprint for future arena subsidization, if I could talk, if that gave them any favor with the league, which they don't want to admit to anything having to do with public subsidy funding. And he's just like, no. And I was like, yes.
Winner.
I got a one-word answer from the master. Like, he would just slay people all left and right because he's, David Stern, and I got a one-word answer.
Just
so,
picture
I'll
you
hang my hat on that for a while.
I'm picturing Brew just skipping out of that press conference, like celebrating as you threw your Microsoft Zune into the sky. And the last question, we've already actually talked about Justin Holiday already, and that, folks, is the end. Brew, my good man, have a lovely weekend, sir.
I'm going to be listening to all sorts of crap on my Zune that I didn't know I had.
I'm trying to date it.
It wasn't dated, but that's a funny thing because that was a Ballmer device.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and he wasn't even in the mix yet at that point. It was still the wonderful racism of Donald Sterling. Hooray!
And on that note,
we bid you all adieu. Thanks, everybody. Lots of good questions. I hope you enjoyed our little overtime period. I'm going to go get the traditional podcast posted because the fun never ends. Mr. Bruski, I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Have a good weekend, Dan.
So long, everybody. Now Dan has to figure out how to turn this thing off while everybody watches me fumble around.